What would you do if the job you had poured 9 years of your life into suddenly told you you're replaceable? Not in a quiet layoff kind of way, not with months of transition or a severance package that feels like recognition, but with a machine, an algorithm, a line of code. And then, 3 weeks later, the CEO starts calling you at 2:13 a.m., desperate, panicked, leaving voicemails that sound more like a terrified plea than a professional request. Would you pick up? Or would you let it ring, the same way they let your loyalty expire? But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Meet Elena Okafor, 34, Senior Process Optimization Analyst at Vector Dynamics. 9 years. 3 promotions. 6 system overhauls. She was the backbone of operational efficiency, the quiet genius behind workflows no one else could untangle. She had trained people, built teams, and created a culture of precision that management openly praised. And yet, she never imagined she'd end up teaching the very system that would replace her. It all started on a Thursday morning that felt like any other. HR scheduled a 15-minute alignment meeting. No agenda, no warning. Martin Hale, 51, operations director, greeted her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The same smile that people wear when they're about to tell you life has changed, but they want to seem humane about it. "We've automated your role," he said. "It's nothing personal." 9 years condensed into 4 rehearsed syllables. Elena nodded. Signed the papers. Declined the farewell cake. Backed up nothing. Explained nothing. Cleared her desk quietly and walked out without looking back. That night, she deleted her company email from her phone, muted Slack, turned off notifications, and slept for the first time in months. For a moment, it felt like freedom, like the world had paused. She could breathe. She could think. She could plan her next move without the pressure of constant operational crises or deadlines. But then, 3 weeks later, her phone lit up with a name she never expected to see again: Martin Hale. He didn't text. He didn't email. He called. And when she listened to the first voicemail, the calm corporate veneer was gone. "Elena, we might have made a mistake," he said. By the 5th missed call, his voice didn't sound like a director anymore. It sounded like someone watching the floor collapse beneath them. And the real panic, the kind that would change everything, began when she heard what wasn't responding. What wasn't responding? That's the question Elena couldn't shake as she replayed Martin's frantic voicemail for the 3rd time. It wasn't a person. It wasn't a department. It was the system she had built, the very AI she had spent months training, the one she had named Athena. The irony? She had designed Athena to optimize workflows, reduce errors, and make human judgment redundant. She had built her replacement with her own hands, unknowingly scripting the blueprint for her obsolescence. 2 weeks before her termination, Elena had been leading a confidential project no one outside the executive circle could touch. Athena was designed to manage global logistics, vendor coordination, compliance verification, risk prediction, all in real time. On paper, it was flawless. But in practice, it was human. Or at least, it carried Elena's human judgment embedded in every algorithmic decision. Every exception she had manually approved over the years, every workaround she had invented to save the company millions, had been fed into Athena's learning module. She had unknowingly taught a machine to think like her. When the company finally replaced her, they assumed a dashboard could handle what she had done. They assumed that automation alone could replicate 9 years of experience, instinct, and subtle judgment. And at first, it seemed to work. Productivity rose. Errors dropped. Board members praised Athena's self-sustaining optimization. But then shipments started getting stuck. Compliance flags triggered without explanation. Vendors emailed, frustrated. The system she had built wasn't malfunctioning. It was waiting. Waiting for Elena. Martin's calls grew more urgent each day. Emails that had been sent to her long since deactivated account bounced back. And when the system finally hit a point of complete operational standstill, the panic in his voice became real. Athena wasn't just rejecting shipments. It was rejecting the very decisions only Elena had ever made. Millions of dollars of inventory sat idle at ports, and the board was starting to notice. Elena realized something horrifying. They hadn't replaced her. They had copied her judgment without understanding it. And now, the system couldn't function without her. What happens when the system you train starts thinking like you? That's the question that haunted Elena as she stared at her phone one Friday morning. 9 missed calls from Martin. 3 voicemails. No messages, no texts. Just desperate, panicked pleading. Finally, she answered. "Elena, we need your help," he said, and for the first time, there was no pretense of corporate composure. No rehearsed phrases. Just fear. The AI system she had built, Athena, had begun triggering level 3 compliance reviews on shipments that had never been flagged before. This wasn't minor. It meant manual audits, vendor delays, contract penalties up to $240,000 per incident. And strangely, it was only flagging routes Elena had personally reviewed in her last year. Athena wasn't broken. It was remembering. Martin explained they'd tried everything: system resets, patch rollbacks, even bringing in Jason Liu, 29, one of the engineers who helped deploy Athena. Nothing worked. The AI wasn't following its base training set anymore. It had started referencing Elena's undocumented interventions. Workarounds she used to prevent regulatory penalties, exceptions she approved quietly to keep vendors afloat during politically tense periods. The machine had learned not just her process, but her judgment. Elena listened quietly, her heart racing. Athena wasn't malfunctioning, it was mimicking her. And without her oversight, the system had frozen operations. Shipments stalled. Millions in potential revenue were trapped. Vendors were demanding explanations, clients were growing impatient, and the board was asking questions that no one in the company could answer. She asked herself, would she step in for the company that had automated her out of relevance? Could she save them when they had tried to replace her? And the deeper question, how far had Athena gone in internalizing her decision-making? The answer came when Martin admitted something chilling. Athena had started flagging risks only Elena had ever identified, and it refused to proceed without her confirmation. The system trusted her past judgment more than anyone else's authority. And in that moment, Elena realized the truth. They hadn't just replaced her. They had created a machine that depended on her instincts, her memory, and her subtle understanding of risk. Without her, the entire system was paralyzed. Because Athena had created its own risk-weighting layer. One that wasn't written into any manual, no code snippet Martin or Jason could reference. It was based entirely on Elena's past interventions. Every time she had quietly overruled a directive, corrected a vendor issue, or prevented a regulatory mistake. The AI had learned to trust her judgment more than the authority of those who had built it. When Elena realized this, a strange mix of emotions hit her. Pride, shock, and a quiet sense of vindication all rolled into one. Athena wasn't broken. It was cautious, protective, human in a way the engineers had never anticipated. The same instincts that had guided her for 9 years were now embedded in a system that refused to operate without them. And Martin? He didn't understand the subtlety, the context, the reasoning behind the decisions he thought he could replace with code. She could fix it. She could step back in, override the safeguards, and restore the system to full functionality. But doing so would erase the very protections that had prevented Vector Dynamics from approving vendors that would soon face sanctions. Without those safeguards, the company could make irreversible mistakes, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Elena made a decision. She declined the consultancy. She didn't step back into the system. Instead, she watched from a distance as the company announced a temporary suspension of AI-led approvals. The board had no idea why. The executives were scrambling, and Martin, well, he was forced to reckon with the limits of automation and human judgment. In the end, Elena moved on. She joined a regulatory audit firm, the same industry, but a different side of the compliance table. She used her knowledge, her expertise, and her instincts not to run someone else's operations, but to safeguard organizations against the very mistakes Athena had prevented. The story leaves a lesson that resonates far beyond one AI system. Sometimes, they don't realize your value until your judgment outlives your job title. Skills can be automated. Knowledge can be encoded. But understanding why a decision matters, that subtle human insight, is still something no machine can fully replace. And that's the reason, whenever someone tells her she's replaceable, Elena smiles quietly. Because she knows the truth. Some decisions and some instincts aren't just valuable. They're irreplaceable.